Texas State is the last chance to go bowling for the Sun Belt. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can finish the season with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we'll go over the basketball. A lot of good ball games. Arkansas State does shake off the rust, and South Alabama is really good. And the surprise team of the night were the Cajuns, and Georgia Southern tried to lose, but they do hang on to win. All right, let's talk about this First Responder Bowl happening between Texas State and North Texas, the ServePro First Responder Bowl. Hopefully they will not run out of beer as they did last year, I believe. It is a 4 p.m. Eastern time game, 3 p.m. Central. It is on the mothership. It is on ESPN. And Texas State has gone from a 9-point favorite to a 14-point favorite. There is a reason for that. Also, remember, the Sun Belt is 3-3 in bowl games. Started out good and has not gone well as of late. James Madison, the South Alabama got a win, 30-23 over Western Michigan. James Madison, 27-17 over Western Kentucky. Sam Houston got a win over Georgia Southern, 31-26. Coastal Carolina fell kind of ugly. UTSA 44-15, so they were 2-2. Arkansas State with a big win over Bowling Green, 38-31. Then the Cajuns fell 34-3 to TCU. So Sun Belt is 3-3. So Texas State is going to determine whether the Sun Belt finishes with a winning record or not. And I don't know how you bet this one with it being a 14-point spread. North Texas will be without its starting quarterback, leading receiver, starting tight end, and starting center. All right. Chandler Morris, 3,700 yards and 31 touchdowns. Receiver DT Sheffield, 822 receptions and 11 touchdowns are gone. But Texas State, Ishmael Mahdi is already gone. I think he's going to Arizona, right? Didn't he transfer to Arizona? And apparently Jordan McLeod isn't going to see much action. Has he opted out of the game? Is that what's going on? 2 starting defensive tackles and a starting quarterback are in the portal, so the defense may suffer. According to covers.com, don't expect a big drop-off from Bobcats offensively. Head coach G.J. Kinney is an offensive guru whose team averages 37 points per game while ranking 16th in success rate. That is, of course, with Jordan McLeod and Ishmael Mahdi. So we'll see. They're saying Brad Jackson, a freshman, dual threat, could get the look-see here. So it is a little bit tough to see what you're going to do. Of course, at the same time, they've had a month, right? When was the last time that Texas State has played a football game, right? They beat, this was Thanksgiving weekend, right? November 29th was the last time they played a game. We've gone through 2 holidays. South Alabama didn't even get to Christmas and they were done. North Texas has gone through Christmas and New Year's since they've played a football game. So, and that's the benefit of going this long. They get all those practices, right? South Alabama's got to squeeze that in between all of the portals opening, finals. You got to get all that in while, you're getting ready for a bowl game. Texas State gets the benefit of all of that. He gets to work. We get to do all of this, and he gets a a good amount of practice. That was the whole point of going to bowls, when really they didn't really start until maybe the week before, right prior to Christmas, and then they were smack dab right after Christmas, right? All through that. And now they start, as we mentioned, South Alabama was at like on the 14th of December. So, Texas State, G.J. Kinney has had a lot of time to see, he's all ready for spring practice. He's got a good idea of who's going to be in the 2 deep for spring ball. At least the guys who are going to be there for spring ball, at least the ones he thinks, right? I mean, sure some of the guys may still hop in the portal. I don't think it's closing. Maybe it has closed. Has it closed? I don't know. I haven't heard that it's closed. Guys are still in it. And if you play a game, if you're in a bowl game, you still get extra days to go into the portal or declare you're going pro. So you get extra days to do that. So if you're playing in the game today, you get a chance to go. You get a couple extra days to go into the portal following that. So I will take Texas State. I certainly wouldn't bet on a game that I don't know who's playing quarterback for either team. I would think Texas State's going to win this football game. It feels like North Texas is without a lot more than Texas State. And again, I have to be fair is not the right word, because I'm not the only one who had the high expectations for Texas State, because from where they were to where they are is huge for Texas State, right? Back-to-back years going bowling. The thing was they were bringing a lot of guys back, and the Sun Belt Player of the Year. Had a little bit of a mess in there. Maybe if they brought TJ Finley back, they would have won the Sun Belt West. I don't know. But, I was thinking they would be better, and they were not. I don't know if that's G.J. Kinney. I don't know if Jordan McLeod didn't fit in. I don't know if he didn't play well. If he didn't, he played pretty well. Who knows why, right? I mean, they really lost to the Cajuns because of a fingertip turned into an interception. So it's that kind of closeness. He hasn't been able to. He got him to a certain spot, and they win tomorrow. I guess I know why I said 9-win season. It could be an 8-win season. That's pretty good, right? What was it last year? It would be back-to-back 8-win seasons. That's really good compared to what it had been. I know this year was a little bit disappointing for what we thought it may have been, and they've set the standard. Now you kind of have to do a little bit of the building, right? And we're all in that spot. The coaches are where you're looking for that quarterback for a couple of years, right? And I mean, I won't say who I mentioned, but I did mention a quarterback to Kane Womack before he went out and got Carter Bradley, because he wanted somebody who's going to be there for 2 years. It's hard to do. All right. But as we mentioned, maybe it is going to be Brad Jackson. Maybe that's going to be the guy. But, in the East, or in the West rather, right, you have, and we're going to talk about this all spring and into the fall, and we're probably going to rank these quarterbacks pretty quickly because you have some good ones. You have Jalen Rayner. You have Gio Lopez. You have Walker Howard. Did I say Hunter Walker before? I got that all mixed up. That's what you have when you have, a guy with 2 last names. So we have some really good quarterbacks in the West, and we'll see who, you have, Goose Crowder, and, we'll see who, and you have Braylon Braxton. So you have a lot of good quarterbacks there, and we'll see who steps up. Again, it's the same coach, just two different teams when it comes to Braylon Braxton and Charles Huff. So got a lot of good quarterbacks, and we'll see what holes need to be filled for for Texas State. But I'll take Texas State. I ain't laying the 14 points. That just seems like a lot. I think Texas State is going to win the football game. And the Sun Belt will be 4-3, which is pretty good. Okay, let's take a timeout. We'll go over what was an exciting night of Sun Belt hoops. We will do that after I tell you about FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel has bets for which players will score a touchdown, who will score first, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, I was going to start off with the games of the day, but we'll start off with, at least in this segment, got to start off with the best team, and that is Arkansas State. I saw a little bit of this ball game. Arkansas State does pull away. They beat Old Dominion 78-59. To say that Arkansas State started off rusty would be a little bit of an understatement. It took, let's see, when they scored their first point of the bucket, it took them 6 minutes and 45 seconds to score. Terence Ford scored with 13 minutes and 15 seconds to go in this first half. They didn't score for 6 minutes and 45 seconds. The problem was Old Dominion only had 6 points. So Old Dominion has a chance to really get out to some sort of a, 10, 12, 15-point lead, and they couldn't score either. And so Arkansas State, I think, led at half. Let me see what this box score was. 32-29. They actually had a double-digit lead in the first half. And this game was tied at 34 early in the second half, and Arkansas State just pulled away. And I will say no Kobe Julian. Kobe Julian did not play in this ball game. Terence Todd led Ford led Arkansas State with 21 points on 9 of 10 shooting. How about that? In 30 minutes of play, Todd on 5 of 17 shooting, not that good, but he had 17 points, and Dominguez had 11 points, a little bit more efficient on 5 of 7 shooting. Dura Gordon had 21 points for Old Dominion, and Johnson had 18 points. As ODU had a little trouble scoring, consistent 29 in the first half, 30 in the second, but they could not stop Arkansas State, who poured in 46 points in the second half. Trying to see where they got all their points in the second half. Maybe they just shot it better. I don't know what they scored 32 points in the first half. They scored 46 points in the second half. Arkansas State pulls away from Old Dominion in what started out being a close ball game and then turned out to be a rout. All right. In what was probably the game of the night, Georgia Southern tried to give this ball game away, did a great job of coming back, and they beat ULM 90-82 was the final score. Georgia Southern was down 11 at half, 46-35, and it did not look good for Georgia Southern. I want to get the spot where Georgia Southern was down in the second half. It was, let's see here, because they went on a huge run. It was 53-44. ULM was up by 9 points with 15:58 to go, 53-44, and then Georgia Southern took off, went on at least a 15-2 run. Yeah, 15-2 run, making it a 59-55 game. They went up to 67-60. They're up 70-62. And I am one of the benefits that I did not realize when I previewed tonight's action. Everything was on the East Coast. So as you guys know, it's really all about me. And since I have a regular day job these days where I have to get up early to go to work, I don't have to worry, at least tonight. And that's not going to be the case next Thursday when a lot of these games are Central Time and I may have to wait until 10 o'clock to record. I can record at when these games end at 9 o'clock-ish. And so all these games were ending at the same time, so I could go from one game to another. So that was pretty cool. And so Arkansas State was pulling away, so can move away at that. Watching South Alabama pull away, and then watching Georgia Southern pull away. And then all of a sudden, I went back to Georgia Southern because ULM had tied it up. It was a 74-67 ball game. And then all of a sudden, it was a 74-74 ball game. And then all of a sudden, nobody could miss. And they're hitting threes. But Georgia Southern ends up hitting like their last 6 shots. And like 4 of them were threes. Douglas had a huge ball game, 8 of 12 from 3. Like teams don't hit 8 3-pointers, and he hit 8 on his own. He was 11 of 16 from the floor, had 30 points. White hit a big 3 at the end. He had 17 points. Smith and Thomas each had 10. They shot the lights out in the second half. I mean, overall, they shot 52.5%, but they shot 64.5% in the second half, 11 out of 20 from 3 in the second half, 55%. And ULM caught fire late, but they struggled, 41% shooting in the second half. And ULM falls. Georgia Southern, again, looked like they were going to lose, and then sort of was giving the game away, and then it did a great job of pulling away. Georgia Southern, let's see here. What did they? Georgia Southern improves to 1-1. Should mention Arkansas State goes to 2-0. Old Dominion drops to 1-1. I'll admit this one. I didn't see much of this game at all. James Madison takes down Southern Miss 83-72. Kind of felt like James Madison was in control of this ball game. It was a 2-point ball game at half, 33-31. Dukes, but they sort of pulled away in the second half. I had the scores up, but it didn't feel like this was much of a ball game at all. Freeman for James Madison, 30 points. Smith had 13. They had 4 guys in double figures. Xavier Brown had 10. Ricks the third had 11. For Southern Miss, Curbelo had 24 and 10 rebounds for the guard. Pretty good for Andre Curbelo. So Southern Miss falls 83-72. Let's see what their records are. I think James Madison is now 1-1. Southern Miss is 1-1. And one more ball game in this segment. Troy does a good job. This ball game was actually pretty close throughout. Troy pulls away at the end, beats App State 69-61. Connerway, has he been in this conference for the better part of a decade? Is that me? Connerway for Troy, 16 points, all threes and free throws. 4 for 4 from 3, 4 for 6 from the free throw line, 8 assists and 4 rebounds. He had 16 points. Rigsby has also been in the conference for the better part of a decade. He had 12 points, and Dowd had 12 points to lead Troy. Tate had 20 points for App State, and Bobron had 12 points for App State. And again, Troy was basically in control of this ball game. I don't know. Let's see here. Largest lead, App State was up 10-3, and their last lead was 44-43 with 13 and a half minutes left to go in the game. So again, Troy seemed to be in control of this ball game for most of the second half. It was close, but every time I looked, it didn't appear that App State was in front, and that happened to be the case. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We will tell you about some other ball games. South Alabama looks really good. I don't think Georgia State's all that good, but I think South Alabama is. We will do that right after I tell you about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me, and I had a few subscriptions that I didn't realize that I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even your goals, and you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to saving members up to $740 a year when using all of your app's premium features. For me, it was one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, Dave Schultz. Locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day. That's called a brain cramp. All right, South Alabama goes into Georgia State. Got off to a quick start and all of a sudden fell behind by one and then went on a little bit of run, 30-20, and then like a 3-point game at half. Georgia State comes out and hits a 3-pointer, and it's a tie ball game, and then it wasn't. They went on a big run. They had all kinds of issues. Georgia State had all kinds of issues scoring. They scored more in the last 6.5 minutes of the first 6.5 minutes of the game than they did in the first 14 minutes of the second half. South Alabama is good, and whatever Georgia State was playing, this odd 1-3-1 matchup zone, they left Barry Dunning, who I've talked about before, kind of a tweener, but a post player in high school, not really a 3-point shooter, but can hit that mid-range jumper that nobody likes to talk about, and he can hit it right at that free throw extended elbow right there. And he just hit it all game long. I think he finished with 20 points. Finished with 22, 9-17 shooting, 0 for 3 from 3, 4 for 4 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds. And again, I mean, they went on a huge run. Really was not nearly as close as the 77-51 score would indicate. Georgia State actually hit some threes at the end of the ball game, but they were stuck on 39 for a minute. Let's see where they were. They got to the 39 mark at 50-39 at 12:58. Their next bucket came at, what did I say, 12:38? 12:58. Jumper by Tenari Lane at 12:58. They scored again at 6:14. So more than 6 minutes. Almost 7 minutes without a point. South Alabama is really good. I mean, really good. I don't think, again, I know Georgia State may not be all that. And South Alabama is going to get tested. They get Troy and they get Arkansas State at home next week, as beat writer Craig Stevenson pointed out. And we noted Arkansas State was coming into town. But again, it's not even the shooting. I like the defense and the way the team shares the ball. These are the stats that I'm looking at, right? The assists, they had 19 assists on 31 field goals. That's awesome. They had 6 turnovers. That's ridiculous. They had 11 steals. They had, let's see here. They forced points off of turnovers. They had 23 points off of 16 turnovers. Fast break points, they're ranking among the nation's leaders. They had 18 fast break points. Again, they're not a very big team. I think Arkansas State and Troy has some size compared to the Jaguars. So we'll see. They do a very odd, non-trapping full court pressure, and they will get you to have some 10-second violations. It's not just to prevent you from setting up your offense. So it's a thing. So we'll see. If they hit their threes, and that's what got them to pull away in this ball game, they're tough. Judah Brown was 5 of 9 from 3, and basically that's their 3-point shooter. He had half of them. They were 9 of 30, and he had 5 of them. And that's what he does. If he's hitting threes, they're tough to beat. If they're not hitting threes, they're susceptible to getting beat because they just don't have a lot of size. They have to hit some threes and turn you over and get fast break points. So we shall see. They're a very good basketball team. It is. The other team's going to have to get a lot of offensive rebounds or to take down South Alabama and beat them with some size. All right, the shocker of the night, I guess. The Cajuns are now 2-0. How about that? They beat. They go into Coastal Carolina and come from behind to take down Coastal Carolina 71 to 68. Coastal Carolina did not have a field goal in the last 6 minutes of the ball game. Coastal Carolina was really winning this ball game, I'm pretty sure, all game long. They had a 13-point second half lead. Every time I looked, the Cajuns were down until all those other games were ending, and I put it on, and the Cajuns were actually down by 2, and they just kept on coming back. And eventually they, got Coastal to miss, and they tied it up, and then they took the lead. I don't know who the guy in the middle is for Coastal Carolina, but they would not give it to him. I guess that's Ammenhauser. Let me see. Does it say his size? Because the Cajuns don't have anybody that can cover him. How big is he? He's 7'2". All right. They would not give it to him. They would not send him an alley-oop. I don't know why. The guy trying to cover him, who was obviously effective, was actually Mutaka. He's the Cajun leading scorer who averages like 12 points a game. He had 21 in this one and actually had a jumper that gave them the lead, but he is 6'6", and he's covering the 7'2" guy, and Coastal Carolina wouldn't give it to the 7'2" guy. What are we doing? I mean, what are we doing? They're fronting him. Throw it high. I don't know. I do not know. But congrats to the Cajuns. All of a sudden, they are 2-0. And again, the schedule is favorable to them. I would, again, say that, the teams that are looking, it's going to be the same thing, right? The Cajuns are saying, hey, why can't we win these games? But that's what everybody is saying when they're looking at the Cajuns schedule, right? I mean, Georgia State's looking at the Cajuns, and Old Dominion's looking at the Cajuns, and ULM are looking at the Cajuns. But the Cajuns are looking at them and like, we could start. The Cajuns are looking at Old Dominion, Monroe, and Georgia State and thinking we could start the Sun Belt 5-0. And whatever happened, in 2024 doesn't matter. Now, what happens after you start 5-0 is going to matter, but we'll see what happens. All right. Those other teams are just not that good. I don't think the Cajuns are that good. And they scored a little bit tonight. They have a tough time scoring, and they scored a little bit tonight. So congratulations to Cajuns, 71-68 with a huge second half, scoring 27 in the first half, kind of Cajun-esque this year, but putting a huge 44 spot in the second half, and upsetting, as it turns out, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, let me see. They fell. Did they fall to 0-2? Coastal falls to 0-2. Cajuns are 2-0, tied for first place. All right, so what haven't we got to tonight? I think Marshall's the last one, right? Marshall, they beat Texas State again. This was one of those that I think Texas State's a better team, but it was in Huntington. So I had Marshall winning it. I think Texas State's a better team, but Texas State hasn't won on the road too much. Marshall beats Texas State 77-71. Marshall overall improves to 8-7, 1-1 in the Sun Belt. Texas State falls to 8-6. All of a sudden, they've lost a couple in a row after winning a bunch in a row. They are 1-1 in the Sun Belt. Let's check out the box score. Let's see here. I'm never going to say his name right. I should know it by now. And Keelan 19 points. Spear had 13, although Mingo did lead Marshall with 77 points. Morgan had 13 for Texas State, and Benson had 16 for Texas State. So those were the ball games. I think I got them all in. I think I did them all. And then they kind of trade spots quickly on Saturday. South Alabama going to Georgia Southern, Texas State going to App State, Coastal Carolina hosting Monroe, Old Dominion hosting Southern Miss, Troy is at Marshall, Arkansas State at James Madison, and Louisiana is at Georgia State. I mean, right now, the best ball game is probably South Alabama and Georgia Southern. All right. Georgia Southern is probably looking forward to seeing how good they are, see if they're being tested, and South Alabama is going to see if they can be tested as well. Georgia Southern can put up some points, all right, and see if they can hold Georgia Southern down. So that's probably the best ball game on the slate for Saturday. All right, we will recap the bowl game on Monday. We'll recap Saturday's action as well. Have a great weekend. Again, thanks so much for continuing to support the channel. Went a little bit long, but we wanted to preview everything and recap it as well. Have a safe weekend. We'll be back on Monday. And again, when I say we, it's me, myself, and I. You've been listening and watching to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you on Monday.